families to celebrate it, and then a brunch at the end of the year. Embrace Kids was founded by a group of parents and staff members who saw gaps in the support system. It started off very grassroots, bake sales to raise quarters back when people used payphones, which it really seems funny to bring up today because most people have a cell phone, although not everybody.
Right.
And then also quarters to do laundry because that was an
something?
issue. And so now, over time, we were able to grow this phenomenal organization with many, many different events, partners, board members. And Embrace Kids has a couple of core services that we provide.
Tell us about those.
The first would be an education program. Children in the clinic or in the hospital receive individualized tutoring each day. There is no cost for that. The tutors communicate back with the home school district, the idea being that the kids stay somewhat or even sometimes a little ahead of what their classmates are doing in terms of reentry, but also because it's so normal. That is part of a child's everyday. So that's why it's very important that they're focused on school. We have an incredible set of counselors and social services professionals. They are there from the first day of diagnosis when the floor literally collapses underneath a family when they get this terrible confirmation. The counselors are there for the parents,
Right.
for the children, for
Siblings.
the siblings, grandparents. In today's world, we have grandparents who are primary
That's right.
caregivers or older siblings, aunts and uncles. I'd say about 20% of our patient population is Spanish speaking exclusively, the parents are.
Yes.
So
being able to make sure that people have services that they can use
Yes.
and understand and translates into services for the home. I was going to ask you, Lori, how have your other children been impacted and enlightened, strengthened by this whole situation? I don't know their ages, so you'll have to tell us the pecking order.
Okay. My oldest daughter, Alexandria, is 21. Then comes my son, Anthony, who's now 18, Jacqueline, who's now 15, and Kyle, who's just turned 13.
Okay.
And to say that they have been affected by Jacqueline's diagnosis is an understatement. What Glenn said before about the floor literally collapsing,
Yes.
that's exactly what happened to my entire family. Every one of the kids was affected differently. My younger son, Kyle, was very depressed and very sad. He was terribly afraid of something really, really tragic happening to his sister. My son, Anthony, was very angry. He didn't understand the disease. He didn't understand why all of a sudden Mom was no longer here. Mom was now living in the hospital. My older daughter, who was trying to focus on college, she didn't understand what was going on. She had to give up a lot of what was going on in her life
Yes.
in order to help me with things at home and to help with things in the hospital. And as Glenn stated before, the social workers, they didn't just help Jacqueline. They helped 6 people. They helped all 4 of my
amazing.
children. They helped my husband and I. If it wasn't for Karen Cambria, I'm not quite sure what would have happened to both of my boys. She gave me countless hours of her time.
This was your social worker.
Yes, through Embrace Kids. She gave us countless hours of her time, and she truly dedicated as much time as she possibly could to my family. She saw what was happening, and she helped us forward through the worst time in our life. She spent time at my home. She spent time in the hospital, always checked in. She herself has young boys, so she knew what was going on in my house. She could appreciate how each one of my kids were being affected. And I'm not really quite sure what would have happened if we hadn't had them.
Well, and how I guess that really that fear manifests itself in terms of for everybody it's different. As you were saying, for some people it's going to be frustration. Others, they're going to nurture their way perhaps out of that fear. But a lot of times I would think that, you know what, if we don't understand it and we can't control it and wrap our arms around it, then it becomes a beast.
Exactly. And Karen helped us get that beast under control. And she helped us manage it. And she provided my husband and I some really good tools to help us get the other kids through this really bad time. My son recently said to me, we were talking about doing a fundraiser in order to help Embrace Kids. And he said to me, Mom, people just don't understand. Unless you've lived it, and unless you've walked the walk, they don't get it, and they don't care.
Yes.
But luckily, I feel so blessed because my kids do get it, and they do care. And they're spreading the word about Embrace Kids, about Dance Marathon, about raising awareness, about raising money, so that Glenn and his staff can continue to help all of the newly diagnosed people.
So how have you now been able to come back and participate? What is your mission, Lori, and your family, as you look at now sort of the wealth of support you got? What do you see your role as now?
Well, my husband and I try to take part in the parent-to-parent program that's associated with the oncology floor at Robert Wood. And what we try to do is just go there with a positive attitude to speak with parents of newly diagnosed children as a picture to show them that there is hope and there is life and people do survive cancer. And my daughter and my son always come back with us, and they always make it a point to introduce themselves to the other kids who are newly diagnosed. They become Facebook friends. They text each other, and they serve as a support to the newly diagnosed patients who are going through what she's gone through. We've also tried to do a couple of small fundraisers so that we could provide Embrace Kids with some new movies and some video games and anything that we can do to help make the lives of the kids and the families better.
What is Jackie's view as she talks about, you know, her life and her vision for herself? Does she talk about that? And how would she like to shape her future?
Well, she's definitely a different person than she was before she had cancer. When you go through any type of cancer or life-threatening illness, you are forever changed. And you see how important it is to give back, to stay connected, and to be a part of that world. It's like she has, you know, one foot in her normal 15-year-old teenage life, but she's deeply rooted in the life that she had at Robert Wood Johnson.
Right. It's almost, she has different families.
She does. She does. And when she comes up there, she's greeted by the nurses with hugs and kisses, and Randy and Glenn always check in on her. They continue to support her. I think Randy, who works with Glenn, is probably one of her biggest cheerleaders. It's amazing how the relationships that she's formed with the people at Robert Wood have just continued and manifested and will continue to grow. Jacqueline is doing everything that she possibly can to get into Rutgers University so that she can be...
I hear you, Jackie. I hear you. Good choice.
So that she could eventually... she wants to get into Rutgers because she wants to be part of the RU for Kids program.
Yes.
So that one day she could be a sorority sister who was there to support somebody who's going through cancer treatment.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? We love this. We're on, listeners, with two great people today. Lori Cirillo is telling us about her family's battle with a child who really struggled and overcame cancer, and the wonderful organization that helped them get through it, Embrace Kids, and the dance-a-thon that's coming up at Rutgers University at the Rutgers Gym this year, April 2nd and 3rd. Personalities, of course, from Magic 98.3 FM will be there on hand. I'll be there. I hope you come out and join me and this wonderful event. We're going to have folks from the radio station there. It's going to be an absolutely great day. What can people do, Glenn, whether they can come in to see us or not? How can they participate in letting families across our state know, and in our area know that, you know, we've got your back? What can they do?
Well, I'd say overall, any time that you hear about a family that's in crisis, whether it's a child's medical condition or anything else, go toward that family. We touched briefly on the issue of isolation. My advice is always, in crisis, go toward people. Make them feel supported. Let them know that their child is important. Ask about how the child is doing, and never second guess whether the family might not want to talk about it or it's uncomfortable. Don't worry, that family, they'll take care of that themselves. The worst thing that can happen is if a family feels that people don't care about their children, or a very powerful thing is when strangers care about your family and child. And that's what Lori talked about. Those sorority students were initially strangers to Jackie and her family, and they came and introduced themselves
Yes.
and invested themselves in their family. And that is very, very powerful, to find out that there are people that care about you that you have never met before. And so I encourage that, in a general philosophical way for everybody that's listening. And then in terms of the event itself, you are certainly welcome to come to the College Avenue gym that weekend.
And bring families. I mean, it's got to be a
Yes.
blast. It's going to
Yeah,
be my
it
first
is.
year there. I'm going to. I have a son in college, but I'm going to bring, the one that's with me, and enjoy the day. It sounds like it's something that you can grab a couple of kids on the block and say, do you want to, invite your friends? Do you
It's a
want to go
blast.
with me? It sounds like it's a lot of fun, and I think that these are sort of the. It never goes out of style. I'm not even going to call it old-fashioned, because I think there's never a bad time when you combine music and fun, and and it gives us a chance to unwind. Our lives are very complex and difficult these days, and they have their moments. And I've never sort of met a family who hasn't faced something. If you live long enough, they say you will have something you're dealing with. And what a great way to come together and bring people out and enjoy the moment. And all the while, you're helping someone else. I'm sure Jackie's going to be there.
She will.
She's going to be there. I'm
she
sure